So I'm joined today with the great privilege of being able to introduce you to Professor Dr. Emilio Matricciani. And uh, he has this amazing thesis about the location of Golgotha from the writings of Maria Valtorta. So, Amelia, would you like to just introduce yourself and give a little bit of background on your history and how you arrived to this work of delving into the work of Maria Valtorta?
Well, I am a retired professor of Politecnico Milan. My specialty is satellite communication, and I'm retired from teaching, but not from research. So I still research on satellites and communication. That is my main job. I mean, the research activity was there, and the teaching activity was there. Since uh, 2016, 17, I got involved. I don't really can reconstruct all the old picture, but I got involved with Maria Valtorta's writings. And my analysis of her writings is academic. I mean, there is no involvement with theology or devotional. I am a Catholic and I am a believer, and I appreciate Maria Valtorta's writings for many things. But my investigation of her writings is academic. The results I presented in several papers before this one, and in this one, this research and the result can be obtained by anybody. There is
Yes,
no involvement of faith and so on, because the writings are there in Italian, possibly, but there are many translations in English, even if I guess some translations are not so accurate. For studies, it is better to read the original Italian writing. And so, no, I always tell somebody that is not acquainted with Maria Valtorta, if she or he starts reading her writings, like the main opera, the main work is L'Evangelo come mi è stato rivelato, the Gospel as revealed to me, in 10 volumes, may be surprised in reading many details. One can say, I want a story, give me the plot. No, it's not a novel. It's not a novel. There are many details. She describes many things, as will see also with this issue of the Golgotha, and these details are fundamental to establish that her visions are unexplainable. I mean, I'm a scientist. I cannot say she had visions. It's not my business. It is not my task. But what she writes can be controlled, can be studied scientifically, and everything I've done so far, it is all the all her details are true. It is
yeah,
unexplainable. She could not have such a large, big culture and such a big knowledge, large knowledge about many things. She was bedridden, paralyzed in bed in 1943, 44, 45, and so on. How could she write so many things that she didn't know? She was not supposed to know it.
yeah, yeah,
So, so my research is in this, according to these issues. I mean, academic issues.
yeah.
Of course, behind this, there are many aspects that, as I said before, I cannot judge because
Yeah.
I cannot say she had visions. Otherwise, my colleagues will say you have visions. So,
Yes, it's good. It's good. So, and for people that are watching this video and don't know who Maria Valtorta is, we believe was an Italian mystic who wrote all of these works in the 1940s. And there are many people now studying her work. So you have Steve Austin has done a very, very, very long encyclopedia of her work. You also have the Valtorta Enigma. You also have Don Ernesto Zucchini, who has now 3 books and a third coming, and you have Liberato de Caro. And we're bringing in now your work, Emilio, into this whole library of studies that are appearing
Yes.
as to how we should read her works. And so people understand, and you rightly said it, it's not just a novel, because she talks about a lot of detail, incredible amounts of detail that have really driven a lot of interest because it's detail that is proving to be true: archaeological topography, cycles of the Michael weather, places, and so forth. So it's in this sphere that we're going to look at your study now, so that people can have it as another signpost on her work.
Okay, in the paper, the preprints, this paper is under review right now for a journal. In the paper, there is a short section on Maria Valtorta's biography, so it is the reader can get the main points. Well, the Golgotha unveiled from the writings of Maria Valtorta is not a traditional one. That is the main point. The outline of his presentation is what is today Golgotha. We must be acquainted with Jerusalem in the first century, because Maria Valtorta seems to know Jerusalem in the first century. Unbelievable. Then the Golgotha, she sees the Golgotha hill. And I've studied, according to what she writes, some possible paths to Golgotha. And then I found, in my opinion, the path to Golgotha. There is one path to Golgotha. The Golgotha is there. And then I conjecture on fuzzy memories leading to the wrong place. Wrong place is the Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre now. And finally, where Golgotha was at that time? Golgotha today, there are 2 locations: the Holy Sepulchre, where Catholic, Orthodox, Coptic, and Protestant people go, and the Gordon's Calvary and Garden Tomb, where some Protestant denominations go. The most important is the first one. This is a plan of Jerusalem. The north is to the right, so Mount of Olives is here, the temple, the Antonia Fortress, where Maria Valtorta says that the Jesus trial took place, the Holy Sepulchre place, where it is now. This is the Gordon's Calvary and the Garden Tomb, the other place. This is Herod's Palace, and Last Supper and other areas. The Siloam, the Pool of Siloam, and the other one here. So this is about the Jerusalem of that time, the time of Jesus. These walls, known as the third walls, were built after Jesus' death. So about 10, 20 years later, and finished just before the destruction of Jerusalem in the year 70. So now, looking at this plan, Jerusalem seems to be a flat city, but it is not. Maybe many people have been in Jerusalem and they know they have to climb, go upstairs, downstairs, so on.
Yeah.
The Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre is here, and this is a cross section which I will examine later. It is very interesting. Is the Golgotha, the alleged Golgotha. Well, speaking of Maria Valtorta, I always should say alleged. I should use the qualifier alleged because, of course, she says so. But they things are so real that I assume that they are real, actually. So this is the alleged Golgotha, the tomb here, the alleged tomb, and this is what appears now, and many people have been there, many people go there. The Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre was first built in the 4th century and later rebuilt in the current Christian quarter of the Old City. The Basilica contains both the alleged site where Jesus of Nazareth was crucified, the Golgotha, and the location of Jesus' empty tomb, Joseph of Arimathea's new tomb. Now, this is important. The archaeological excavation in the second half of the 20th century showed that north of the city walls, the first walls at that time, first wall, the early first century AD, there was a vast quarry used since the 8th century BC for extracting limestone. The quarry was abandoned in the 1st century, largely filled and used for vegetable gardens. The gate that goes to this place is still called was called the Garden's Gate. In the carved rocky walls along the hillside, a number of family tombs were hewn for rich people. These are tombs for rich people. Golgotha, the mount on which the crosses were raised, would have had the appearance of a rocky knoll above and separated from the hill. When in 41-42 AD, Herod Agrippa, descended from one of the Herod's family, enlarged the city walls toward the northwest and started to build the third wall, the walls that we have seen before. The alleged Golgotha became part of the city. The bones in the tombs of the area were transferred outside the new walls because both Romans and Jews allowed cemeteries only outside city walls. This is why no bones were found in the tomb of the Holy Sepulchre. After the second Jewish revolt in 132, etc., and the prohibition to all Jews to live in the city, Jerusalem was transformed into a Greek-Roman city, Aelia Capitolina. In the area of the alleged Golgotha, a pagan temple was erected on an embankment, thus sealing off the ancient remains. As Eusebius, bishop of Caesarea, in the early 3rd century writes, Life of Constantine the Great, and in 334 and 24, Bishop Macarius of Jerusalem, at the request of the Emperor Constantine the Great, destroyed the pagan structure, and also over his mother Helena, destroyed the pagan structure built on his alleged Golgotha to look for the empty tomb of Jesus. So they took all the dirt away. Following the discovery of an empty tomb and the rock knoll, Constantine's architects designed the first Holy Sepulchre complex containing both Golgotha and the tomb. Since then, with no scientific proof, nor archaeological proof, nothing of this kind, of course, we are in the 4th century, these sites are the Golgotha and the tomb for a vast majority of Christians. Yep. Now, Gordon Calvary is not credible really because, well, it is this rock that has two eyes, possibly a nose and a mouth, and somebody decided that it was the Golgotha. The tomb there, the garden tomb, is of the 7th century before Christ, so it is not believable. Some people go there, and the people who take care of the garden tomb, of course, make money on that.
Yeah.
Jerusalem in the 1st century, topography of Jerusalem, a mountainous area in the time of Jesus, but still now is so. North is to the right. Mount Moriah, where the temple was built, is this one. Mount Zion is where the upper city was built. There are 3 valleys, the Hinnom Valley, still present, the European Valley, this is almost disappeared because it was filled by the city constructions, and the Kidron Valley to the east. These contour lines of equal same altitude have space 3 meters apart, and have been important for me to find the path to Golgotha. Actually, the Holy Sepulchre, the Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre is in this place, and the Garden Tomb is in this place. Gordon's Calvary is in this place. Yeah. Sorry. This is an interesting view seen from southeast of the Jerusalem in the time of Jesus of Nazareth. We see the temple. North is up in the upside. The temple, the pool of Siloam, the other pool of the Bethesda here, Antonia Fortress, the upper city where rich people had their houses, their palaces, like Herod's palace. Lazarus, the friend of Jesus, as by Valtorta writes, had a palace in the upper city. He had many. The Lazarus family had many buildings. One of these, the palace, was in the upper city. Then there was another one where the Last Supper was took place. The Basilica, the actual traditional site of Golgotha is here. This is where the Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre was later built. The gardens gate is here. So this place is only 150 meters away from the gate, very, very close to the city. Yeah. When the city was enlarged with the third wall, the bones were taken away. According to Flavius Josephus, who is the historian of the Jewish War and antiquities of the Jews, in this corner was built later than Jesus' times, after Jesus was dead, the so-called Psephinus Tower. From this tower, you could see the sea, Mediterranean Sea, and the Arab and the mountains beyond that sea. I will come back to this one. This gate is important because it is the gate that Maria Valtorta sees. She calls it the judicial gate. It was also the Fisher Gate, the old Fisher Gate. Antonia Fortress, and after Jesus was had this trial and was condemned to crucifixion, Maria Valtorta writes about this. I won't read it, of course. He was taken down to the street, and then from the gate there is a description of the path to Golgotha. This is another view. These two views, two reconstruction are based on archaeological findings, so they are accurate. More detailed, the temple, the Fish Gate or the Judicial Gate, the Antonia Fortress, the road. This is the European road that filled the valley within the city. Part of the upper city where rich people had the palaces. And this actually, I asked the author of this drawing, it is Gordon's Calvary, is this one. There are two roads, as also depicted here. One road, this goes to Samaria, and this road goes to Psephinus Tower. So this is a dead-end road.
Yes.
Now, what she writes. In the paper, there are all the details. So if people are interested in all these details, can read the paper. But in the chapter 608, people will say more than 600 chapters. Yes, 10 books, about 5,000 pages. She writes, the ascent to Calvary begins a barren road without the least shade, paved with uneven, the emphasis is mine, with uneven stones that goes straight up the hill. Here again, when I used to read, I read the Calvary was a few meters high. It may be so. It is certainly not a mountain, but it is a hill, not certainly lower than the Mount of the Crosses is with respect to the Lungarni, where the Basilica of Saint Miniato is in Florence. Maria Valtorta knew Florence because she lived there for several years. So this information is very important because she is telling us the height of the Golgotha. Screenshot of the terrain profile from Arno River. This is the Arno River, starting from this point. The Lungarno is along the sea, along the river Arno. And then for the people who have been in Florence, I think many of the listeners have been in Florence. This is the Michelangelo Square place, and San Miniato is here. So this is 50 meters, about 50 meters.
Yeah.
So from this description, we know that we can decode the height of the Golgotha hill, 50 meters.
Yeah.
But she sketches, she makes it, she draws. This is a little complex, but very important drawing, because this is the gate. The Porta Giudiziaria means judicial gate, the wall of the city. There is a stream, a torrent here, right here.
Yeah.
There are some gardens here. This is very important because the Joseph Ramiatea tomb is in this garden, deep in the shade of the garden. Then there is a paved road that goes to Golgotha. At about half road, there is this spiral country road. It is not a paved road. It is a country road, probably done by people because that something happened at half of this paved road.
Yeah,
that was built, of course. The drawing, at least vertically, seems in scale, because she says that the two pitches that are here, the pitch at the top of the hill and the other one is below 2 meters. So the side of a square is 2 meters.
Okay.
Here is the decoding. The judicial gate is at the torrent is at altitude of 738 meters. This altitude is 785 meters. The relative altitude is 47 meters. That's in scale. The Golgotha is in scale, but it is not in scale the horizontal dimensions, because if I calculated the root gradient, the slope of this spiral road, the slope would be from 25% to 50%, which is unrealistic. If people left the paved road because this second track was too steep, probably. I will show that later. So the horizontal scale is not, the horizontal dimension is not in scale, but the vertical it is. 50 meters, 47 meters. And there's this shape that reminds people of a skull. That's a Golgotha, a skull.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. The Calvary, the top of the Calvary, in my opinion, is in scale because it is very detailed. So I suppose that one square side, the side of the square is 2 meters. So the area is about 232 square meters. She designs the second pitch, the first pitch, and the three crosses. I had to go back to this drawing because Maria Valtorta says that Mary is here in the shade. The pious women are here in the shade, but they say it is the north. Now, she could have said just the shade. No, Mary is a repair from the sun, this is the shade, but she adds, it is the north. This is a very important information because it says that the path to Golgotha, the north must be on the right side. Mm-hmm. That's the information. The path to Golgotha keeps as a north always on the right side. This excludes many, many paths.
Yeah.
As we say. So let's return to the plan here. I study these 5-6 paths. This path, since the north is here, this path maintain the fact that the north is on the right side when you walk from the judicial gate or fish gate from here to some place where I study this path, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 has a small deviation because the path that this is described by Valtorta is curved, and then path 6. What comes out from the Holy Sepulchre is here, the actual basilica. The Gordon's Calvary is here. So they will not maintain north to the side, not to the right side. Anyway, the gate is this one, is not the Garden Gate, which is this one. Now, this as a function of distance from the judicial gate, this is the altitude, and we can see that the first 4 paths are really not practical because of the slope, the root gradient of the slope of the encounter and in walking in the path is very, very large for some. The 2 interesting paths are the number 5, the straight one and the curved one. Number 6 is actually the road to Samaria. So it is not the paved road mentioned by Maria Valtorta, which is not so well maintained. This is the Roman road, very well maintained. And it is not a dead-end road. So 6 must be also excluded. So we have to study the 2 paths, number 5, in particular the curved one, this one. Now, these 2 paths show something very interesting. At about half, there is a change in the slope. Actually, there is an area where people can walk more easily because the slope is less compared to the first and to the second one, especially to the second one. Because the second one, now these are all mixed up, the various paths, but it is, if you look at the dashed one or the blue continuous one, these are the best ones. Now, the 6 path, all satisfy the condition that north must be to the right. You see that the 1, 2, 3, and 4 have very high root gradient, so the slope is very high. Do not show mid-altitude slope decrease. Only 5 blue continuous and blue dash show there is a drop at about mid-altitude. Also number 6, but green, the green path is to Samaria, or Samaria, I don't know how you say in English, Samaria, and it is the Roman road. So these are the blue continuous line path is as a slope of 11%, the other one is 10%. So this is lower overall, but it is very interesting. In the paper, there are more details that the reader can appreciate. The path curved is very interesting because the first tract has a slope of about 8%. The second one has about 12%. So this is the reason why some people walked in the spear and made a track around the hill. The time I established the time by considering an healthy man walking, and also the time horse a soldier galloping the paved road, because when Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea asked Longinus, who was in charge of the soldier at the top of the hill, the corpse of the body of Jesus, Longinus wanted to be sure that they had the permission by Pilatus. So to be fast, because the place, actually the distance from the Antonia fortress is about 900 meters. It's not very close. So he sent a horse soldier to be fast, because sunset was approaching and Saturday was starting. So they had to be in a hurry. And this time is just over about 2 minutes. So maybe 15 minutes later or 20 minutes later, the horse soldier came back and said, okay, Pilatus says it can be done. So this is the curved path is the one. And the direction is that of the path number 5. Fits better the path to Golgotha, the minimum mean gradient, 2 distinct tracks, perhaps just by chance, but very intriguing. The 2 tracks, the paved all the same height and require about the same time. When Nicodemus and Joseph Arimathea came back with the corpse, they ran to the paved road, then went like this, or maybe descended this way to go to the vegetables garden. And also the man from Cyrene, I would say Cyrene, he was standing here. He came up from this place. And could not go on, because there were many people here and many people also here. So this is another real thing described by Maria Valtorta. Now, in conclusion, the curved path is the most probable path to Golgotha, according to Maria Valtorta's writings and my investigation. This path and the Maria Valtorta description of Golgotha satisfy all the remarks done by archaeologist Shimon Gibson in about 20 years ago, even less. He writes, emphasis is mine, today the rock of Calvary is pointed out to pilgrims immediately on the right when entering the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This rocky outcrop rises to a height of 9 to 13 meters above the surrounding quarry floor. Its top is narrow and confined only 3.5 times 1.7 meters. The summit was too narrow to permit 3 crosses to be placed there, and its sides were too steep to allow easy access. The figure, this is the cross section of the Golgotha Basilica. While the rock may have been a monument marking the general place of Golgotha, almost a signpost, it was definitely not the actual place crucifixion. Gibson may agree that maybe the tomb was there, but not the Golgotha. Actually, the tomb was, according to the draw by Maria Valtorta, the tomb was closer to the garden tomb in that area. The execution still, Gibson writes, the execution site of Golgotha must have been an easily identifiable topographical landmark close to Jerusalem, a low promontory, perhaps known to the city inhabitants. It was a place where people had easy access, paved road, to, and it could be seen from afar, which suggests a conspicuous location rather than a small rocky outcrop. More important, it was situated adjacent to a path or road leading to the city, the road to Samaria. And I was thinking something that, okay, I will come back if comes back my mind. Now, Maria Valtorta, in a previous chapter, writes something very interesting. Lazarus Palace is on one of the many ground elevations that make the streets in the Jerusalem, particularly the less beautiful ones, a continuous up and down. It is almost in the center of the city, slightly southwest. It is situated in a beautiful street leading to the Sixtus, forming a T with it close to the temple, and it dominates the lower part of the city and faces toward Bethesda, Moria, Ophel, the Mount of Olives, which is behind them. Behind it, there is a Mount Sion, so this palace is in the upper city, the area to which it belongs, while on both sides, one eyes rove over the southern hills where Bethesda, to the north side, hides most of the view, but beyond the Innon Valley, the bald head, the skull of Golgotha, emerges yellowish in the pink light of dawn. So the Golgotha, therefore, is a misprint, is to the northwest of the Innon Valley. It cannot be the Holy Sepulchre or Golgotha Scarlet, which are on the other side.
Fascinating.
A conjecture on fuzzy memories leading to a wrong place. Now, I was hit by this small drawing. Now, if you turn it around and impose that the height is the same or the chord is the same, it reminds the Golgotha seen by Valtorta. So what can we think? Maybe there was this, well, actually, from the New Testament, we know very few things, that Jesus was crucified on a place that, remember, a skull, out of the city, out of the gate, and that the tomb was new and was close to the place. Nothing more. No more, nothing else, really. So probably the shape of the Golgotha, the skull, was transferred to people. We have also to consider the fact that Jews were not living in Jerusalem anymore, even not the Christians. There were nobody. So what happened? In my opinion, the skull, this resemblance was carried out, were carried on along the time, and it remained. And in that area, and the area of the actual basilica, they discovered this kind of rock, which is very low, very small, which was similar to Golgotha. And so that was Golgotha.
Yeah.
So we go to a wrong place. We go not only because the archaeologists already say that, but Maria Valtorta does not see the basilica, the place of the Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre. Where Golgotha was? This is path number 5. The curved one or the other one goes to where the Tower of Psephinus was located. What happened? Well, this was a high place. Where was the Golgotha? Very visible. There was already the paved road. So when they built the third wall, this place was constructed under the Psephinus Tower, which was very high, about more than 30 meters, as described by Flavius Josephus. Now, the Romans destroyed everything, all the walls, including the tower. So we probably will never find, maybe they have digged in this area and found the remains of the third wall. They should dig in this area to find probably some findings about the Tower of Psephinus. That was Golgotha. Actually, what I was thinking before, and now I have recalled in my mind, this place, the Golgotha place, must have been an official place of the Romans for crucifixion, because there were many holes. Maria Valtorta describes it. So it was the official place. There was the paved road that led to this place, very high, about 50 meters, and visible, and so on. Tower of Psephinus. This area is known today as the Russian compound. The Russian, it is there.
Yes.
And in this model of Jerusalem in the year 70, this is the Psephinus Tower, about 30, 31, depends on the conversion of in meters, about 31 meters high. Now the Antonia Fortress is here. The Herod Tower, Herod Palace is here. The three towers of the Herod Palace are here. Now there is one tower left. It is called David's Tower, but nothing to do with David, of course. And the Holy Sepulchre Basilica should be in this area. So this was the place, visible from the road to Samaria and from the city. Now, this was the paved road. Here it is.
Yes.
This was the road seen by Maria Valtorta. And this was the road to the other one, the Roman road, very well kept, as the Romans used to do. But this was paved, but not very regular. It was a dead-end road to a dramatic place. So this is the end of my discussion on the Golgotha.
It's a fascinating insight into the history and to the map of the era, because this is what Maria Valtorta is doing. She's as you said at the start of the presentation, what I'm seeing is different to what I've been told, and I'm seeing this, and I know I've learned this, and she's really showing us something fascinating. And this is why the details, as I said in many of my videos, the details of what she's saying is an incredible sign for our era. And you have, as I said, different people: Steve Austin, Liberato De Caro, yourself. You have the Valtorta Enigma by the French author. You have different people that have said, "Hold on a second. She could not have known this vast wealth of information."
Another example, she knows the temple very well. And
yes.
She, in a place, she writes that they enter the city and go around the Pool of Siloam with a curve and then go up to the temple. Here it is, the road. Well, fascinating.
Yeah, you would not know
She's
that.
looking at the map. She's looking at the map.
Exactly. And this happens again and again and again. And just to remind people, when you read a chapter, one of the chapters, she might be doing lots of detail, and they're here and they're walking here, and Jesus is doing this, and it says, okay, well, what's all this? This is just like padding the story, adding. And
no. The Jesus said to her, everything you see, you write down. Write everything you see. She's very good in writing in Italian. She had, as you know, many fountain pens always filled with ink, because she never knew where the vision would come. So she writes everything. It is not a novel. There are more than 700 characters. I mean,
exactly.
Or she's a monster, deserving several Nobel Prize for literature. I don't know. I cannot explain. I read, and everything turns out correct. The readers can read my papers. These are published in by SCIRP, or also by MDPI, the two institutions. Just put my name inside, and there are several papers. The first paper, actually, with Liberato De Caro, I wrote the first scientific paper on my investigation of the rainy days. No?
Yes.
They turn out completely correct.
Yes.
And the paper published in Religions in 2017 is the first scientific paper on Maria Valtorta, but it is also the first scientific paper on mystics.
Yes.
I have to say, for completeness of my work, that what the French wrote are not scientific. I mean, Laver wrote the book, but nobody checked the book. So we don't know if what he writes is correct or not. It is a book. It is not a paper. A scientific paper, an academic paper, is reviewed by people. It is difficult to publish a scientific paper. So if you had to choose to read a scientific paper or a book, no, there is no problem. Read the scientific paper. The book comes after. If it is based on scientific papers, as our book, I mean by myself and Liberato De Caro, these books are based on papers, on scientific papers, so they can be trusted. But a book not reviewed by anybody cannot be fully trusted. It is, I can write everything. I mean, who checked it?
Yeah.
So probably the quarrel about the chronology of Jesus' life.
Yes.
The French have a wrong chronology. Does not agree with Maria Valtorta. So what are they doing?
Yeah.
What are they writing for? They are just wasting time, and also making some confusion in the readers, because the correct chronology that leads to the year of crucifixion in the year 34, April 33, Friday, April 23rd of April 34, that is the correct chronology, which agrees with the tradition. Jesus' birth across the 1 BC and 1 AD. We wrote a paper. We have a paper, scientific paper on this date. Can be found in the places where I said before. So what are they talking about? They are very good in popularizing Maria Valtorta's writing. That's very, very good. But scientifically, no, they are wrong.
Yeah.
Now, truth is important. Truth is just one. Truth is one. There are no two truths.
I think you're making the exact same point that Steve Austin has made as well, and the position I'm taking on all of these different books and papers is it's all part of this research and journey that we all have to make with these writings, because we have to present them to the church with many different facets from the do they align to the faith and morals of the church, from the scientific side, and present them again. So I think over the next 10, 20, 30 years, you will see a lot of people building on the different work. Okay, Laver got it wrong here, but he got it right here. So we can, as you say, peer review this work systematically and then present it here. This is what we see as something that needs to be studied.
May I? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
May I make a conjecture?
Absolutely.
The year 2031 would be an anniversary, 2000 years of the starting of Jesus' public life. Something must happen.
And that's the 70th year.
Nothing must happen, because, of course, in favor of Maria Valtorta and her writing, because people can read. Many people are reading Maria Valtorta's writing books, but many more are not. They are missing the important things. The gospel. They are missing the gospel as it is. It is. Yeah.
Yes.
You read and understand. You read and you can understand. You don't need books, thousands of books on theology and so on. You read and you understand. As should have been Jesus when he was talking to people.
Yes. I mean, and I think this is the wealth. This is the science, the mystery, the sign that we're all seeing in these writings. I read them in Italian, and she is very good at explaining a whole detail of wealth. And somebody said, "Oh, it's a badly written novel." It's not badly written. It's not badly written at all. It's a very beautiful, loving, detailed novel. a picture view of what she has been given, and that's what I encourage people to. I mean, it's not just me saying this; it's so many other people. But people need to read these writings now, and especially in Italy, in the original, we need to bring them out to the world. And what you're doing is a fascinating insight in somebody who's able to pick out and give us, a scientific side to our writings, which very few people are doing at the moment, in the world.
Okay.
Yeah. Which would be the next area if you were going to do your
Yeah.
next paper? What would you go into?
Well, I worked, as you know, most of my research behind this one, uh, beside this one, is was on the
Sorry, I lost you there. Okay, there you go. If you, yeah, there you go. Just
okay.
yeah,
Can you see me? Yeah.
yeah, I can see you perfectly. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I was saying I studied the mathematics of Earth text. Actually, from these studies, I developed a theory of literary mm, literary text and short-term memory that I published many papers. One or two on Maria Valtorta's but writing, but also another writing. It was very curious. She has characters that speak differently.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
It's
No,
crazy. It's
Jesus speaks differently when he speaks in the temple and when he speaks to the apostle or tell parables and so on. It's different. Mathematically, it can be seen. Can be seen.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe I will return to this for another investigation. But I would like to investigate further the um, what she narrates about roads. She narrates about the Roman roads, Roman ports, Mediterranean cities, with many details. There is more to be researched.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to whet people's appetite to
Yeah.
study this work.
Maybe some scholars of fashion, food. She describes how people were dressed, what they ate.
Yeah,
Why don't they could study that too and
yeah,
see if she's
yeah,
telling something that is wrong. No.
yeah,
Well, actually, with the Liberato and Fernando, we published the paper on Galen. No, we
yeah,
showed Maria Valtorta mentioned one of the characters of Maria Valtorta, the Roman ladies, mentioned this Galen. Galen, we know Galen of Pergamon, which was a famous doctor, but he lived 100 years later. But this is in the first century. Now we showed through my mathematical analysis of text that there was a Galen different from Galen of Pergamon, and he lived in the first century with historical sources studied by Fernando. So everything she writes is correct.
yes, yes,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Anything she writes is correct.
It's fascinating. The food side. I mean, I'm just going to give some examples on the food side that I thought was interesting. Some on one of the chapters, they're giving Peter food, or they're giving the apostles food, some meat, some cheese, and some butter. And then the apostle, no, I don't want the butter; it's going to melt, and he leaves the butter. And then there's another scene where they're preparing fish. They're going to cook some fish, and it's dried fish that they prepare by putting some water and then to roast it after it. And there's a whole, like as you said, if somebody looked at the side of the food, at the clothing, because she describes clothing, weaving, the topography, the geography, the weather, and then the characters when somebody is speaking. I mean, Peter or
Yes.
Judas.
We already studied. We did the research. We did the
Yeah,
study already. I did it.
yeah.
Different. Yeah, different.
It's a fascinating work,
Wow.
and we're just touching the surface of this. You'd need to read Valtorta several times. Um, all her works, her quadernetti, the little books, the big work, to really understand, her mind, and for viewers to be aware of, she did mention something about where Saint Peter is buried, and that's a whole nother study in itself.
We published a paper on the first burial, and we were inspired from her also.
Yes.
The third and last, but no, the Vatican is not doing any digging there.
No,
It is
leave it alone.
Saint Peter is not in the Vatican. It is in the
Yeah, I know.
it's called Torpignattara. That's
Yeah,
where the catacombs are.
yeah,
Is there in the second level, which is buried, not digged. So it must be there because some information, technical information, lives there. But we don't know or any action.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
But
see, since as long as in the Vatican there are some people who think that Jesus didn't have to go to Maria Valtorta's bedroom, he had to go to his bedroom, so things do not go on.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But Emilio, thank you so much for giving your time, for giving it this
Okay, it was a
fascinating.
pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Maybe we
And
can meet next year in Viareggio.
yes, hopefully, absolutely, it would be a pleasure. God bless
Okay,
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.